You know how when you're being yourself, um, and you're hanging out with someone that you don't necessarily like romantically, they tend to end up falling in love with you? Maybe you haven't experienced this, but I have. And whenever I was romantically interested in someone, they would be partly repulsed by me. And I used to think, oh, there must be something wrong with me. But in reality, there was nothing wrong with me. There was something wrong with the person that I was trying to be. The person I was trying to be was not an entire person, it was a shell of a person. And people can't fall in love with shells. There's no true connection there because the part of the person that you connect with is the soul. And if you are being a shell of a person, your soul is not in the mix. So I wanted to talk about relationships in a broad sense and connect my experience with romantic and friendship experiences and relationships with my business relationships and my issues with authority from my past because of my parents. And hopefully this will help you with your business ventures or romantic or friendship ventures or even your relationship with yourself, because that is the most important one. Whenever you have an epiphany of something, well, I'm just speaking from my experience. Whenever I have an epiphany of something, it's usually a slow rolling out of fragments of ideas that eventually culminate into something that looks like a whole picture. And the epiphany is actually just realizing that these parts have all of the sudden made this entire picture, but it has been a process that I just realized has been going on underneath the surface. And recently this happened with relationships in regard to business, relationships in regard to money. A few years ago, I think like 5 years ago, I read the book You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. If you've never read that book, I highly recommend it. It changed my life every time I read it. And it's basically a modernized version of Think and Grow Rich, I think. Or no, The Science of Getting Rich. At the end of each chapter, there's exercises, prompts, and affirmations to help reprogram your mind around money. And there was a quote from that book that has stuck with me, but I don't think I realized what it meant until maybe today. And the quote was something like this: money is to people as ketchup is to fries. Fries are just the conduit for ketchup, and people are the conduit for money. Meaning that anytime you earn money, it comes from someone. Anytime you receive money, it comes from some person. On the surface of this, I understood that yes, other people have money, and in order to receive money, I will need to provide some service to other people. But what I didn't realize was that there are no bounds to what someone finds valuable. It doesn't have to be a specific product that you put so much effort into. It doesn't have to be an educational podcast such as this. It doesn't have to be anything that was previously seen as valuable and was traded for money. Something that is valuable to other people can really just be your friendship and your relationship with that person. And it's not as direct as my relationship with you deserves an hourly paycheck. It runs a lot deeper than that. And people can tell if you are in that relationship just for money. It becomes inauthentic, and the value is slowly stripped away. What I realized today was that I'm a really great friend. I have great relationships with the people who enjoy my company. But up until today, I have not been able to consistently maintain relationships in my business. And this ties into my issues with authority and my parents. And maybe you also have issues with authority and your parents, especially coming from a background of being employed as an employee underneath a boss or a superior. That authority, in my opinion, or my experience, held being fired over my head. And it was not what they told me or how they acted or anything like that. It was just my hardwiring fear of authority because of my childhood growing up. So being employed, receiving money, meant being under constant threat. The person who gave me money, my boss, or who gave me the employment, was also the threat. And if you understand anything about attachment styles, I'm not extremely versed in attachment styles, but I think this is anxious attachment, and it is where the danger and the caretaker are the same. So the child doesn't understand when or what the caretaker will do, and so there's an anxious attachment to that caretaker. Just as an example of my experience, my parental figure would be erratic, and I never really knew what was going to trigger a change in reaction. The rules were not very clear, and they often changed. As a child, I couldn't really find a distinct pattern other than anytime I interacted with my parental figure, something could happen. And as a child, you have very limited logic and very simplistic thinking. So the obvious conclusion was that the catalyst for these dangerous events and the catalyst for the reactions, if you want to speak scientifically, was me. This causes a child to be constantly on edge and tiptoe and try to change yourself in order to fit in to the authority's view of peace. Because if the authority is sedated in some way, then the authority and the subservient can have peace and safety. So about a year ago, I realized that, or maybe it was 2 years, who knows, I realized that my view of humanity was that of danger. I viewed other people as ticking time bombs, honestly. And if you have this issue with authority and you think that I'll go out and be on my own and I won't have a boss and everything will be fantastic, I just want to let you know that every client still fulfills that place of boss. It is a different dynamic, but if you have an issue with authority, you are then the authority of your business, and so you will realize that the only issue you have is with yourself, or you will attract many clients that you hate, and you will continue to live like that. As within, so without. Your reality is a mirror of your internal experience. So I realized that I previously thought that the world was a very dangerous place, and this was at a very visceral level. So it was not like logical or even a conscious belief. It was a visceral belief that I had learned probably right out the gate. And by the gate, I mean my mom's, right past the veil of Isis. And I noticed all of this anxiety around working for clients that I really, really liked. And I would be drawing, and I would think over and over again in my head, it would just be like a repeated cycle of, they're going to hate this, they're going to say that this is wrong with it, they're going to, they're probably thinking about how to best fire me at this point. And that is no way to live, for real. But I want you to understand that my relationships with other people had been, ups and downs and whatnot. But for people that I saw as my equal, my relationships with them are fantastic. I'm a great friend, and they were just fantastic. So the only difference in these dynamics was that I saw these people, these clients, my bosses, my parents, as higher than me. They were the authority over me. They were holding me hostage by dangling love, safety, money, career over my head. Those were the bars that I was locked behind. And it took a lot of filing away at those bars to realize that I could literally walk around them, because it was a cage of my own making. And maybe it has to do with some kind of biological development, because I am 26, going to be 27 later this year in 2023. But I just kind of realized, and especially being able to be outside of the corporate rigmarole or whatever, being able to email people like people, oh my God, like I cannot tell you how much anxiety was lifted off my shoulders whenever I was able to just type LOL in a fucking meeting, an email to a client or to a potential employer. It's such a big deal to be able to look at every single other person on this planet and say, you and I are made of mud. We are equal. We will be buried deep underneath the ground and rot just like anyone else. There is nothing in you or about you that is better than me, higher than me, and you don't have anything over my head. We are equals, and if we would like to exchange services, conversations, ideas, feelings, vibes, then that's a conversation we can have. But coming from a place of equality has been, I'm telling you, it has been an entire process for me to get to that point. And perhaps you have gotten to that point 20 years ago, and perhaps you have not gotten to that point and you're hearing this for the first time. The true freedom of realizing that you are just as good as anyone else is just that. It's true freedom. It's absolute freedom. And perhaps this is from the little bit of meditation I've been doing, or the praying, or changing the gods that I've worshipped. I don't know, but I'm telling you that it's real. And relationships are everything. If you have a good relationship, a good friendship with a client, and it doesn't have to be a close relationship. You don't have to talk about your parents or trauma dump or anything like that. You can just have a regular, oh, hey, how you doing lately? I've been thinking about you, or I know that you're interested in golf. Here's something I came across. Just thinking about you. Talk to you later. Talk to you next year, So I had a lot of issues with being able to receive money since being an adult, and me realizing that issue is because of my authority issue, and not seeing people as actual people, but as these disguised monsters just waiting to pounce. That has, and I told you before, I realized this today, so it's changed my life, but I guess we'll just have to see how exactly. Let me know what you think about this concept in the comments. Let me know if you've had similar experiences, if you would like to hear other things similar to this. And if you want to stick around and hear my goings about with learning how to be a human and learning how to be a business owner and a professional without a lot of anxiety, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. If you would like to download this as a coloring sheet, the link is in the description below. Thank you.